launch of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies TIPS, and also a special session organized to mark this auspicious launch entitled Education is Business, but with a Difference. Before commencing the program, may I request Shri Sitaram Sharma, founder, president, TIPS, and also former president, Bharat Chamber of Commerce, to welcome today Shri Anil Swarup, former secretary of Coal and Education, School Education, Government of India, and co-chairman Board of Advisors, the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies, with a bouquet of flowers. Thank you, sir. We are expecting Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, IFS retired, former Secretary East, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and Chairman, Board of Advisor TIPS, to join us in some time. He is stuck in a traffic. So, may I now request Mr. Dr. Rahul Verma, Secretary General of WebFuna, to welcome Dr. N.G. Khetan, immediate past president, with a bouquet of flowers. Immediate past president of Bharat Chamber of Commerce, and also the advisor of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies. I would also request Dr. Verma to kindly present a bouquet of flowers to Shri Naresh Pachesia, President of Bharat Chamber of Commerce. Shri Pachesia, President of the Chamber, to commence today's program with his welcome address.
Shri Anil Swarup, Dr. N.G. Khetan, Shri Sitaramji Sharma, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, namaskar, and a very warm welcome to each one of you. It is both an honor and a solemn privilege to extend greetings on behalf of Bharat Chamber of Commerce on the auspicious launching of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies, TIPS, and a warm welcome to all of you to the session on education in business, but with a difference, organized today to mark this momentous occasion. I wish to extend a warm welcome to Chairman, Shri Anil Swarup, IAS retired, former Secretary, Coal and School Education, Government of India, and Co-Chairman, Board of Advisors, TIPS. Thank you, Anilji, for sparing some of your valuable time to visit Kolkata and sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We also welcome and appreciate the presence of Mr. Maxim Kozlov, Consul General of the Russian Federation in Kolkata. Thank you for being with us this morning. At a time when the world is witnessing increasingly complex geopolitical tensions, civic conflicts, and ecological crisis, the call for peace cannot remain a footnote. According to the 2025 Global Peace Index, the world has become less peaceful for the 12th time in the last 15 years. In fact, it is at its lowest in the 21st century, at its lowest in the last 25 years. With over 92 countries recording a deterioration in peace, the economic impact of violence on the global economy reached an estimated 17.8 trillion USD, nearly 12.9% of global GDP, a stark reminder of the urgent need to reimagine our approaches to coexistence and diplomacy. India, with its deeply embedded civilizational ethos of non-violence, tolerance, and coexistence, remains committed to the ideals of peace. Guided by the legacy of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence, Swami Vivekananda's universalism, and Guru Rabindranath Tagore's humanist internationalism, India continues to advocate peace through diplomacy, cultural exchange, and people to people engagement. While the 2025 Global Peace Index places India at rank 117 out of 163 countries, we must interpret this not as a statistics measures itself, but as a challenge, an imperative to do more, both within and beyond our borders. India's leadership in global platforms like the G20, its active role in US peacekeeping operations, and its global diplomacy reflect this commitment to aspire for harmony in diversity. The establishment of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies is therefore not merely symbolic, it is a step towards action, towards nurturing scholarship and youth leadership in the arena of peace building, drawing from the timeless humanism of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore himself. He envisioned a world where nationalism would not become a source of conflict but a confluence of cultures. As we gather in the spirit of hope, let us remember the words of Tagore, and I quote: Peace is not the mere absence of war, it is the presence of justice, of law, of order, in short, of government. Unquote. These words resonate even more deeply today when global conflicts often mask deeper failures of inclusion, governance, and empathy. In this context, the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies stands at a unique intersection of education, ethics, and enterprise. In an era of rapid global change, when knowledge has become currency and institutions are increasingly driven by market forces, it is essential to pause and ask what truly differentiates education from other industries. Unlike traditional industries, education deals not in commodities but in conscience, not in consumption but in character. It transforms not just economies, but entire generations. And for this very reason, its responsibilities are higher, its stakes greater. The National Education Policy 2020 envisions a holistic, learner centric system that blends tradition with modernity, values, and vocation. But to realize this vision, we need institutions and enterprises that see education not as a service to sell, but as a legacy to build. And perhaps most importantly, it must strive not only to teach success, but to teach peace as well. India's education landscape has undergone a significant shift in the last decade, with EdTech playing a crucial role in redefining how students learn, teachers teach, and knowledge is consumed. I must add here that universities, colleges, and institutes are our members. Quality education with significant exposure to new technologies is important. In this regard, I would like to emphasize that if we compare 2012 with 2022, enrollments have increased from 2.7 lakh to 16.2 lakhs in state private universities. This 497% rise is supporting the demand for education, infrastructure, faculty, and research to ensure access to quality education. As we are gathered here, ladies and gentlemen, in a room full of educators, I consider this to be the opportune time to reflect on how educational institutions can remain financially viable yet socially accountable, competitive yet compassionate, and most importantly, how we can ensure that the business of education never loses its sight of its difference, that is, above all, a human endeavor. Let this institute embody both the urgency of now and the wisdom of enduring patience to explore, educate, and engage with the many dimensions of peace, from policy to pedagogy, from grassroots to global stages. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Shri Sitaram Sharma Founder President, the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies, to kindly introduce today's theme.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Patricia, President of the Chamber of Commerce, for his very encouraging words and also for joining hands with us at the launch of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies. I'm also happy because of today, two organizations have got together, Bharat Chamber and the TIPS. And I'm particularly happy because of my association with the Bharat Chamber of Commerce. And we have our past president, immediate past president, Sri N.G. Ketan, as an advisor in our tips. Let me first begin by expressing my most sincere thanks and gratitude to Sri Anil Swarup. Because you know that when I took this venture, or rather adventure, on my part at this age and stage of my life, he was the only person who continuously encouraged me. There were handicaps, there were challenges, and I'm told, sorry, you will not be able to do it. But he was the only person who always encouraged me. He warned me of the challenges, he warned me of the difficulties, but always said, continue with this. And that's why we got together during his last visit, some of my friends, and I invited him there because I knew if he will be there, my friends will also feel encouraged. Otherwise, they were getting disappointed also. So my first thanks go to him. And I took a commitment from him. And then again, he was the first person to agree to be the chairman of our advisory committee. And I look forward to his continued guidance, support, and everything in all respects. And it's very nice that whenever he comes to Calcutta, he's very kind to let me know about his visit. My association with him began when he was coal secretary. And I was the president of Bharat Chamber of Commerce. I took that opportunity of inviting him to Bharat Chamber, and he came as a gold secretary, but then he came at a different place. So when he came this side, he was almost surprised. He said, oh my God, you got a fantastic building. I said, during those days, yeah, yes, that time. And I said, we were at the rental place, and rented means a place we took on loan and we never returned him for many, many years to come. But then we got this building now, thanks to our past president, Sri Podarji, who was the chairman of our core committee. And sir, so my first thanks goes to Sri Anil Swarupji that for his continuous support, and I look forward to his guidance for all times to come. Now, friends, as I mentioned to you, that this has been a really challenge for me. Because you see, I've been associated with the UN movement for last about 45 years. I've gone to the Peace University. I've gone to the institute there. I've gone to Costa Rica, where we have the only one in Peace University. When you Google peace studies, there's a plethora of universities and students, hundreds of them. But most of them are in Europe. I found that even the peace university is also in that part of the world. Maybe it was wrong on my part, but I always considered Europe is not the correct place to have a peace university. Because you all know, both the world wars were fought in Europe only, and between them only. The one place where we should have a peace university should be India, the land of peace, the land of Mahatma Gandhi, land of Buddha, land of Tagore. And we didn't have it. So when I thought of this, I failed, miserably failed during last 20, 30 years. I didn't get any support, neither from the state government, not from the central government, not from my mentors, not from the political leadership. And they will tell me, you start a fashion technology course, you start a management course, there will be a flood of money around this table or even many of chambers. We have many who are associated with the education field. They have their own institute and the universities are there. Number of them are there. Because for 2 reasons. I feel today's world, if you want to have good money, there are two sectors other than the normal business: health and education, where you can make good money and at the same time, good networking. And that's why I don't blame anybody, and I'm not raising finger against anybody because our this educational institutions are run by this. So I wanted to have this discussion that education is business, but with a difference. So tips is with a difference. Friends, it may seem very strange that education is business. No, most of the people will say no. Now, there is a fellow, Sri Deepak Jalan, a friend of mine, a mentor of our institution, is closely connected with the education. He deals in the pen. And without pen, you can't have education. So thanks, Deepak, for joining us and supporting us. So you know that when I say education is also business, many may raise questions and eyebrows. After all, education also costs money. After all, it requires investment. After all, it needs revenue to sustain itself. These are the similarities. You need money to invest, you need investment to sustain it, and you also need profits to run it. We all know that the consumerism is the backbone of any business, most of the business at least. But when it comes to business or education, this is not so obvious. Consumerism is not so obvious. Okay, yes, come, good. So, yes, Ambassador, please come. Come. क्या हुआ, देरी हो गई आपको? Traffic. Calcutta traffic is famous. So we started. You see, we all know that the consumerism is the backbone of any business. But when it comes to business or education, that is not so obvious. That is why education is indeed a business, but with a difference. Education is more about nurturing than consumerism. In business, the concept of value for money is paramount. In education, however, this idea does not always apply in the same way. Extending this value proposition in the context of tips, why do we need to study peace? This is a basic question. Even the principles, we had a round of about 22 principles discussing about this concept. And the students were there. Any student will raise the same one question: why do we study peace? Second question will be, what are the career options? So these are the two very, very important questions. And naturally the question comes, why do we need to study peace? It helps us to understand the causes of conflict and how to prevent them. And the conflict is all over, starting from the family to the continents. So we need to, peace studies also teaches us about different methods of resolving the disputes. In fact, without the study of peace, we would be missing a vital tool for creating a more peaceful world. If you Google, as I mentioned to you about the peace studies, you will find a plethora of peace universities and institutes all over the world. But most are based in USA and Western Europe. As a result, because most of the peace studies, sir, are based on the Western concept. The whole studies are based on the Western concept. There's hardly any Eastern concept when the peace studies courses are there. And they are rooted in the Western culture. Well, I thought the peace should be rooted in our culture, in this continent's culture. Yeah. So then you need to frame the peace studies through non-Western idioms. And I think the tips will be mainly concentrating on that, where we will make the study peace in the non-Western idioms. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, particularly in India, we don't have a peace university of that reputation and recognition. Even some government of India has also not thought of setting up a peace university. uh, there was one institute like Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Studies, and I was the chairman for that about 4 years. And luckily, like him, I served for 2 years under NDA and 2 years under UPA. There also, you see that. But otherwise, we don't have any such peace university in this part of world, which is India. And moreover, TIPS is not only an educational institution, it is going to be a think tank also. And India, as far as the India is concerned, most of the things are, firstly, are based in and around Delhi. Sir, you will agree with me. And most of them look towards the central government for their recognition, for their funding, and all that. Hardly any think tank based in this part of the world. All these things are financed and controlled by some political parties or the governments or some business houses. There is hardly any independent, non-partisan think tank in India. Ambassador, I'm sorry to say, because I know you are associated with a very prominent think tank. You know that. But then is the historical city of Calcutta, friends. Metaphorically, we can say that thoughts on the peace germinated before the rest of India in this part of the world. And there is an apparent dearth of the research oriented, non profit, non partisan think tanks. Hopefully, TIPS will serve this purpose and fill up this vacuum in this part of the world. The contemporary globalized world has witnessed the emergence of many new conflicts, while several long running conflicts remain unresolved. We are not living in a peaceful world. We should be very clear about it. Pessimists even predict the emergence of new wars driven by climate change, natural resources like water, economic instability, and large scale migration. These are the factors which are likely to make the world increasingly unstable and fragile. In any event, the absence of war, as Mr. Patricia said, does not necessarily indicate the presence of peace. Admittedly, I have been associated with the UN as a volunteer in different capacities at national, regional, global level. But I must say, the United Nations has not been very successful. Once I organized a roundtable at St. James College, the UN is dead. So Imran is here. He was the secretary of the alumni. And my friend said, what are you doing? That you are the deputy secretary of the World Federation of UN Association and you are organizing an event saying UN is dead. I said, yes, I'm not an UN employee. I am a UN, I advocate for the UN. But then I also criticize UN if UN fails. And UN failed very in a big way. You see, today, Russian conflict, Ukraine conflict is going on. Do you hear a single word from United Nations anywhere? Do you find UN anywhere? Nowhere. So this is very unfortunate. At one time, the role which UN played, we are fully aware of that. But today, it's not there. And UN has miserably failed in its foremost objective of maintaining international peace and security, for which the UN was set up. And largely because what is happening because the UN failed to reform itself, and it has become irrelevant in the 21st century because the UN was set up in 1945 is not relevant to this century. And I think unless they reform themselves, UN will not be able to do anything. We must admit that the peace is today more important than ever. And it is in this context the peace studies entered the academic courses as an disciplinary field. Now here we have very fortunate to have Sri Swaroop here, who has been in the education field. He has been the secretary of the school education, and he will also, I'm sure, he will mention about the new education policy of the government of India, where the auxiliary courses are as important as the main courses. During our time, it was only what? History, geography, and at best civics, nothing else. Nowadays, the whole course, all the courses are changed. And its new education policy, even the students are getting credits for these auxiliary courses and all that. where we can, and I think this peace study will can build a more peaceful society. Peace education can also be a powerful tool for preventing violence and extremism by addressing the root causes of conflict and promoting non-violent conflict resolution strategies. Unfortunately, we are clouded by a vision of the world where conflict is inevitable, where justice is not a privilege, where peace is not just a pause between the two wars. We believe peace is not a wishful thinking. And I'm very clear on that. It is a discipline, a craft, a commitment. It must be studied, it must be practiced, it must be institutionalized. Because peace cannot be an afterthought. It must be a profession. And here comes the role of TIPS as an institution for for the study of peace and conflict resolution. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Bharat Chamber of Commerce, I warmly welcome Ambassador Anil Vadva, IFS retired, former Secretary East, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and Chairman, Board of Advisor of Tagore Institute of Peace Studies. Welcome, Ambassador. We also note and appreciate the presence of Ms. Sabreen Chaudhary, First Secretary, Bangladesh Deputy High Commission, Kolkata.
So I would request you to kindly present a bouquet of flowers to Ambassador Vadva and to welcome him to today's program.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to mark species beginning, it is a practice of the chamber to inaugurate by lighting the lamp. Today we have a lamp on the table and the two switches in front of Shri Swami and Ambassador Vadva. I would request both of you the lamp together to mark this auspicious beginning of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies.
Sir, you need to hold on to this.
পেনগুলো বসলে Thank you. I would request the dignitaries on the dais to pen down a note on the replica that is there on the table. It is a quote that appears below the bronze bust of Mahatma Gandhi at the United Nations headquarters in New York, presented by the Indian government. I would request all of you to kindly pen down a note which would be a memory for us.
Dr. Vikram Sarkar, former member of parliament. Let me give proxy for
You can't give your gender.
it is now unisex. Also, nicely.
Dr. G. Khaitan, Solicitor Advisor, TIPS, and immediate past President of the Chamber, to kindly deliver the special address on today's occasion.
I think now I have to say good afternoon. I'm really confused. I'm confused because it talks of an institute. I'm confused because it talks of the Institute of Peace Studies. I'm also confused because your subject is education is business, but with a difference. If you we are talking of peace, what peace we had in 20th century? You had World War One, you had World War Two. On as far as the 21st century is concerned, we are constantly at war. How do a peace study under any circumstances by any logic can bring peace in the world? The mindset of the world has to change. The mindset of the world leaders have to change who really matters. And when you talk of education is business, let me remind you that if you would not had this other word, but with a difference, you would have committed a contempt of court. The judgment of the Supreme Court, not one, but many, stated that education can no longer be a business in India. Just now, you said that you start education institution and make profit. Sir, again, that would tantamount to violating the order of the Honorable Supreme Court of India.
No.
Because because I know when you speak before an ISS and when you speak before UPSC, who has cracked the most difficult examination in the world, you will always say yes or no. I know that, but I have that's why I quoted it. I have brought this judgment with me. I don't want to read that judgment that education is not a business to earn profit. This is what the TMA Pi Foundation judgment said, sir. If you remember that, you remember that.
Yet it will not be a contempt.
Just to warn them, just to warn them. Sir, the issue is education is important. Uh, 30 years back, I had an opportunity. That time it was British Airways, chairman of the British Airways. And he said, you can change the world by only three things. And those three things are only education, education, education. Nothing else. Again, I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I do get opportunity sometimes to address educational institutions. What is the state of affair of our educational institution in this country? In 2024, your population of the students was in the range of 43.3 million, maybe a little more than that. I think I'm correct on that. So he's not disputing. So I'm happy on that.
Facts I will.
Facts you will not dispute. If I'm also not wrong, I think we have the registered school to the extent of about 1.5 million. So I'm correct there also. We have the registered universities. I'll go to universities later on to the extent of colleges, to the extent of over 5,000 colleges, registered colleges. In a country which has a population of 1.4 billion, you have about 1,300 universities. This is the state of affair of our education in India. You know, there is an institute called ECAL. You read about it. The Friends of the Tribal Society. They visited villages and they said, what can we do for you as far as the rural development is concerned? Can we open a help you as far as the agriculture is concerned by bringing some technology. We can some tube well. He said, no, we don't want anything. Just educate our children. And you know, the Ekal alone is running 80,000 schools in the country today, and all in the villages, all in the villages, with no building, with no building, and they teach under a tree. And elementary education, the elementary education is an education defined under the Right to Education Act. Not a primary education, but an elementary education. And this elementary education is given to the children between 6 to 14 years of age, and that is what Ekal is doing. And that education is done free of cost. They ask the villagers to come, students to come. There is no school in the villages. They have to go miles and miles. So this is the state of affairs. The teachers are teachers of the villages. The teachers are teachers of the villages. How do we improve education? How do we bring in education? Because education is not cheap. Education is become very, very expensive. I think Mr. Jalan would agree. It was a different thing when you could establish an educational institution in the cities. You can educate, but today the cost of the land, the cost of the building, the salary of the teachers. You want to give good education, and how do you give good education? The West Bengal government has passed a regulation that we will allow you to increase a fees every year, whatever is your fees, existing fees, to the extent of 10% every year. Now, when you have an existing fees and if you increase it by 10% every year, how do you do the development of that institution? When I was the president of South Point High School, one of the largest school in the world, I was asked to set up a college. I went to the Institute of Technical Education. They are the body. He said, yes, we'll allow you to set up the college, but then there are regulations. The regulations are that the committee will be not only yours. You will agree with me that they will have the teachers representative, guardians representative, government representative. Then as far as the fees is concerned, we will regulate the fees. So therefore, it's absolutely impossible, I mean, if I may say so, that we are an over-regulated country as far as the education is concerned. Unless we shun regulation, unless we allow education institution to run, we have a right to Free Education Act as far as the children are concerned, but that is only in relation to elementary education, up to class 6 to 14, the ages of 6 to 14. Even that education is not free. There is no rebate. There is no income tax. There is no income tax. But is there any deduction? Is there any deduction as far as, yes, you will not charge education institution as far as education institution when they impart education. But what relief have you given? On a research and development, when you spend money, you get deduction. Teachers, I personally feel, the teacher, they are doing such a human service, but their income is taxed. Is it not a time to think that the income earned by teachers are free of tax so that you can get teachers at a lower salary, because ultimately they pay tax. In any event, they do private tuition. In any event, that is the point I'm trying to say. The point in issue is, sir, that we need to revolutionize the education system in India. And until we don't do that, we will continue to remain a country where, I was reading the Times of India yesterday, and it's a very interesting article. Every day I cut articles from the newspaper. Yesterday I was in Delhi, I was reading Times of India, and there was an article by Mr. Chetan Bhagat. And I would like to read that particular article of his. It's a very interesting article. He wrote about what is the state of affairs as far as the students in India is concerned. And he went on to say, India youth are deeply addicted to a passive phone use, what seems to like a harmless entertainment is in reality a productivity crisis. Millions spend 6 to 8 hours a day mindlessly scrolling through reels and short videos. This numbs the brain, diminishes the attention span, and stifles creativity. Then he went on to say, why bother with a book? Why bother with a book? And they say, you can just watch video. But could you trust a doctor? Could you trust a doctor who doesn't read a medical book but watches only YouTube to give you medical advice? So if you remember, sir, we had Dr. Sanjeev Sanyal here. He happens to be the vice chancellor now of Gokhale University. And he went on to say with a theory which I really do not subscribe to his theory, but ultimately he is the advisor to the Prime Minister of India. So I cannot discount to what his theory is. His theory is that we don't need an educational institution anymore. His theory is that there will be no more universities anymore. There will be part-time universities. This is not I am saying, sir, this is the advisor to the Prime Minister of India. He says the best teachers are ChatGPT. The best professors are YouTube. Why do you have to go to the school, and why do you have to, he didn't say school, but why do you have to go to the college and universities? You can hear the best lectures of the best professor in the world on a particular subject through a YouTube. I mean, if that is the mind process of the people who runs this, on whose advice the country is run, I don't know what lies as far as the future of the education is concerned. And again, in that context, let me read another which Mr. Chetan Bhagat said yesterday. This is also a very interesting because today we rely on AI all the time. We rely on Chat GPT all the time. Sir, I'm sorry. 2 more minutes because people want to hear you. I know I do more of bakwas, but still I felt that this is what I feel about education. And I strongly feel, sir, I strongly feel that this AI, it's a good tool. It's a good tool. Chat box is a good tool. But what effect it is going to have? What effect it is going to have? And it goes on to say, if AI does your assignment, you never learn to think critically. You never learn to structure an argument. And you never learn to express yourself in writing. So I feel, sir, that we need a total relook as far as the education is concerned in India. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khetan, for always putting very different perspectives, and you have shared your thoughts and the thoughts of Dr. Sanyal, of Chetan Bhagat, and opened up the whole conversation to the next level and setting the stage for Shri Anil Swaroop, former Secretary, School Education, Government of India, to actually throw light on this subject. I can say in that afternoon lunch, what we had, Sitaramji had organized on the thoughts of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies. His thoughts on the peace studies itself were very interesting, and I'm sure we'll hear more about education. Shri Anil Swaroop.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this chamber. It's always a pleasure interacting with all of you. I can go on and on. A very exciting and provocative speech by Mr. Khetan, but I will refrain from commenting on that lest I be hauled up for another contempt of court. I'll come to that later on. At the outset, let me compliment Mr. Sitaram for taking this plunge. Not an easy plunge, but then all revolutions come through such plunges. I refuse to believe that discussion and study on peace will not impact peace. I'll come to that later on. But before I do that, since I am on the advisory board, I must also compliment both Bharat Chamber and PITS for starting this session on time. To me, discipline is the key. I think all that Mr. Kethan spoke, if we had discipline, then things will improve in this country. Traffic will always be there, flights will always be delayed, but I can tell you with all the conviction of that command, at 38 years as civil servant, I was never ever late for a meeting. And we can do that. So if this Peace Institute is to be set up, all deliberations have to start on time. That's the discipline we must maintain. Because I would feel very uneasy if those that come on time are penalized by those that don't. So start the discussion, let people come on time. So that's what I would suggest. I'll give you a few more advices, because what I'm going to talk today is not to tell government what it should do, because government is not sitting here. I'll tell us what we can do in taking this movement forward, which Mr. Sitaram has started. Now, it's very easy to have ideas in this country, and there's no dearth of ideas. You go down the street and there will be ideas, and ideas. But I have understood through my experience that for any idea to fructify and sustain over a period of time, it has to be politically acceptable, socially desirable, technologically feasible, financially viable, administratively doable, judicially tenable, emotionally relatable, and environmentally sustainable. Quite a handful. But having had that experience of 30 years in difficult ministries like coal, education, and before that in the cabinet secretariat, I have come to believe that this can be made to happen, thereby that you can make an idea politically acceptable even if it is not to begin with. You can make an idea socially desirable if it is not there to begin with. You can make an idea financially viable if it is not to begin with, and so on and so forth. The question is, what do we do to make this idea happen in terms of making it acceptable, making it desirable, making it tenable? Let me touch upon 3 aspects today of these 8 dimensions, because 8 will take a lot of time. My next book, in fact, Making It Happen, You Can Make It Happen, is all about these ideas on how to make them happen. Let me restrict myself to the topic of the day today, because I'm an optimist. I believe things can happen, and hence things will happen. And that's why I compliment Mr. Sitaram. Let me start with the financial viability part of it. You know, the topic of the day is education is business, and someone warned me that if I speak something else, I'll be held for contempt of court. I couldn't care less. If a Supreme Court judge can hold a press conference against the Chief Justice of India and get away with it, I shall also get away with it. If he then becomes the Chief Justice himself, then I can also get away with it. And thereafter, despite a sexual harassment case, he becomes a member of Parliament of Rajya Sabha, I can also get away with it. So let me not be scared on account of the threat of contempt of court. And by the way, whatever little law that I know, it would not be a contempt of court if we say that education can be for profit. And why should profit be a dirty word? All education institutions and secondary education are making profit. We are being hypocrites in not recognizing that. So allow to me. In fact, when Dr. Kasturi Rangan came to me, asked for my suggestion, I said, allow them to make profit and tax it. Because right now they're making profit and you're unable to tax it. What is wrong in it? There should be no injustice to the student there, and there are methodology for it. If I charge a fee of 1 lakh rupees per month upfront, let the ward take or let the parents take a choice whether they want to go there. There are other schools available. Why are you stopping me from doing that? But if I increase the fee when the child inside it, then there has to be a rational relationship. So there is a difference. We must understand. There's no time to go into the granularity of it, but if time permits, I'll explain that. So please, let's not use profit as a dirty word. Let us not profiteer. But if there's no money, it will not be a financial proposition, viable proposition. If a proposition is not financially viable, and I say that a former government servant, I used to fight in the government also, why should you not allow that? How does it sustain? जेब में नहीं पत्ता चल दिया कलकत्ता, आप कैसे करोगे भाई काम? So that is one part. We must understand that very clearly. You should not profiteer, but the making profit or making some surplus, there's nothing wrong in it. That is one. Second, it has to be socially desirable. Now, there's no conflict between social desirability and financial viability. You can be socially relevant despite the fact you are making profit. In fact, both should go together, and in many companies, they are indeed going together. Tatas are making enormous profit, but they are doing things that are socially desirable. Of course, there are converse examples also. The question is where we are looking at, and now come to the next aspect. There's a lot of wrong in the society going on. The question is where we are looking at. Someone mentioned Europe. I think I would learn a lot from Europe. I mean, they were doing many things wrong, but there's so much to learn from Europe. Look at, could anybody imagine 100 years ago today that there would be a common currency in Europe? They were at each other's throat. They fought the bloodiest of religious wars in that country, and we are preparing for one in India. Can't we learn from them that they don't help? The Berlin Wall came down. Why can't the wall between our subcontinent come down? So there are certainly lessons. I'm not saying they're doing a lot many wrongs. My question is, having set up this organization called Nexus of Good, I believe in learning from the good. रामचंद्र जी ने लक्ष्मण को रावण के पास क्यों भेजा था? वो तो सुर था, असुर था, क्योंकि he thought उनके पास भी कुछ ना कुछ सीखने को है. I mean, even the stop clock gives you lesson for 2 times a day. They're right. So the question is, where am I looking at? I have not come across any perfect institution, any perfect individual. My job right through my life has been to pick up good things from Sitaram ji, you won't give up. So I learned at his age, so much to learn. I can learn from anybody. So can I pick up those things? Now let me come to the topic of the day about peace and this, how an institute of this stature can help. Obviously, if someone is expecting the day tips will be set up, all wars will stop in the world, it won't happen. Are we expecting that? No. If we can, over a period of time, demonstrate the efficacy and utility of peace, then we'll be able to do it. You must have read this seminal book by The World is Flat by Friedman. He says there hasn't been a war between two countries that have had McDonald's. Now, don't take it literally. What it really says is, if you develop a symbiotic economic relationship between two countries, very difficult. You would still go to a war if there is a madman sitting somewhere, but by and large, you would not. Why did America back down from what it said against China? Because of the symbiotic relationship. You develop this economic symbiotic relationships, peace will come. Peace भाषणों से नहीं आएगी, ज्ञान से नहीं आएगी. Peace आएगी by demonstrating the efficacy of peace. Because we all value. If we can convey a value proposition to whatever I am saying, the other guy will listen to me. But अगर हम सिर्फ ज्ञान की बात करेंगे, माफ, please pardon me for using this phrase, क्योंकि मैं ज्ञानी पुरुष नहीं हूं तो मैं ज्ञान की बात नहीं करता. I have been a practitioner through my life, and I believe that such institutes could help move towards peace by undertaking studies to demonstrate how peace has held. And Europe is a classic example of how peace helped Europe develop. So we can take such examples. And in fact, within the country, मैं तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया में था, तीर तोप चलते थे, दिल्ली तीर चला रहा है, स्टेट की तरफ स्टेट तोप चला रही है दिल्ली की तरफ. And as coal secretary, I had to get coal from all states which were ruled by opposition ruled states. तो हम भी एक तीर लगा देते उसमें. उस समय टिप्स नहीं था, वरना तो मैं यहाँ की थोड़ा सुलह पीस की कोशिश करता. Imagine how much this country will develop if there is a peace between central and states. So peace is not merely at the international level. Peace is at every level. It's a state of mind. It is how you think. It is your thought process. And if this institute, and I'm sure it will, promote this aspect of peace within. I mean, that's what Tagore, what Vivekanand, all of those talked of. Mahatma Gandhi talked of peace within. और हम कह रहे हैं ये गड़बड़ है, वो गड़बड़ है, और ये गड़बड़ है. गड़बड़ तो है ही. मतलब I am not denying the fact that there's so much wrong in the society. There's so much wrong with the government. There's so much wrong with the policies of the government. But the question is, do we look at some positive somewhere and take a lesson and learn and develop on that? That's what Nexus of Good is all about. In fact, I was here for Nexus of Good conference yesterday, where we are trying to promote goodness. If all the rascals or the ruffians of the world can come together and make life difficult for us, why shouldn't good people come together, learn from each other, replicate, scale? So I'm so glad you do what you do. I can go on and on, but I don't want to be late for the next assignment. So I'll stop here because talking is the easiest thing to do. Walking is difficult. Now you got to walk. We will only talk as advisors. Thank you very much. God bless you. Take care. Yes, yes,
More suggestion.
yes,
I'm Amitabh Chakraborty.
yes.
I have been working with a leading public sector.
Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. Okay.
We were talking about anti-profiteering. So GST there is a clause anti-profiteering. So in the similar mode, from education business interest, can we think of some anti-profiteering or similar clause? Maybe the benefit-
Can be the next speaker. Thank you very much. God bless.
Give 2 minutes to give you a moment, please.
Just a moment for moment.
So I would request Shri Sitaram Sharma, founder president TIPS, to present a memento to Shri Anil Swarup,
Yeah.
IAS, retired from Secretary School Education, Government of India, and chairman of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies.
Thank you very much.
या आपके टेबल पर रहना चाहिए
Yeah, it will be there. Thank you very much. God bless you. फिर से एक बार
एक बार फिर
एक्शन रिप्ले जल्दी से ले लीजिए मुझे जाना है थैंक यू वेरी मच गॉड ब्लेस
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, I request Ambassador Anil, IFS retired former Secretary East Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and Chairman Board of Advisor TIPS, to kindly deliver the address. Okay.
Yeah. Ambassador Anil Wadhwa has been a great and welcome addition to our leadership of the TIPS. As you know, the most career option important is from the TIPS is diplomacy. And who else can be a more relevant and important person than Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, having a long history of diplomacy, having served more than 6 countries as ambassador, starting from Italy to Oman to many countries in different continents. And here, my Sharia is here, sir. He has come. Yes.
Hello. Thank you.
And I'm sure that with his diplomatic knowledge and experience, he will guide our course and help us in taking our scheme forward. Ambassador, please.
So thank you very much for welcoming me, and I have to apologize after what Anil has said about being late because of the traffic, but not my fault because the car is of course came later than it was expected to because they got caught in traffic. So I can't blame Calcutta. I have to blame myself and take all the blame. So my sincere apologies, and I'm glad you started on time so that we could stick to the time. I know that Khaitan sir would be provocative because he usually is. I know him for some time now. And he is always questioning things, which is a wonderful thing to do because that's what we need in scholarship. Always some amount of query and some amount of thinking about what we are doing and where we are going. That's very, very important. But first of all, my congratulations that today we are actually inaugurating this institute for peace studies. Why? Because around us, we just see that despite the fact that we have a technological boom, we still feel that there is a certain rise in violence around us, and also conflict has arisen despite that happening. So while technology connects, it also bringing about tensions all over the world. So domestically or in various countries, in various regions around the world today, the world seems to be in turmoil. And we've just heard, the thought being expressed before this. That is, one of those important things to do today in India is to have some amount of infusion of peace and conflict studies into the curriculum, because that's not happened at the
at the scale, or it has not happened, in terms of thinking which goes behind education. And I can see that why this is so important, because I have done disarmament in my career for about 14 years. In terms of covering the disarmament meetings in the United Nations system, also negotiating some conventions like the Chemical Weapons Convention, taking part in the nuclear test ban negotiations, the Outer Space Treaty, and an NMOD convention, etc., etc., the Biological Weapons Convention. All these talk a lot about how a particular weapon is to be banned, how it needs to be verified, and how it needs to be monitored. But ultimately, the self interest of countries and individuals always comes in the way of achieving that perfection. So, what is important here is that as the youth in India grow up, that they must know what it means to avoid conflict and how to avoid conflict. And once conflict has arisen, how to resolve that situation and move forward with that situation. So, what I'm thinking about in terms of this inauguration is the vision of peace and justice and sustainable development, which must be built into the curricula when we are going through our school and college education in this country and indeed in the rest of the world. But being in India, I think we can only talk about what we can do here in Calcutta and in India in general. In other words, the understanding, the empathy, the cooperation which comes with an understanding of peace studies is very essential. Now, if we look at examples around the world, whether you take the peace situation which arose in Rwanda after the ethnic cleansing, or what happened in Sri Lanka, in fact, demonstrates that while the violent situations can be extreme, but still there can be solutions that can be found through conflict resolution. For that to happen, you have to have the development of necessary skills, and you need to have an awareness about how things come about. In terms of the immediate consequences of conflict, I can also think about um, employment opportunity, which is very important. What are the root causes of conflict, for instance? So it's employment, it's human security, the general lack of adherence to sustainable development goals, and the fact that there is less awareness about what can be done in these situations. And that gives us the rationale for the need to have peace and security studies. And as I said earlier, while we have the technology which is all pervading today in the world, we still have conflicts like Palestine, Ukraine, the water disputes within India, for example, which are ongoing. Why is that happening? Because, we fail to understand the root causes of it, and we fail to take action which can be taken in time. So, education equips us to transform that situation. That's my basic point here. And if we have the right kind of education, which has an understanding of peace and conflict resolution, that helps us even further. I can think of a number of instances around the world. For example, in Costa Rica, when the government decided to disband the army and go in only for development, I can think of at home of the Naxal movement, where development and construction of roads and employment opportunities has brought down violence, or even in Kerala, for instance, where there is a lot of emphasis which is placed on how people live in peace with the nature and sustainable development. So all this has happened because we brought the whole concept of peace and conflict resolution to the classrooms, to the general governance of that particular place. And the UN itself has had a study on this, where they've come out with this conclusion that 40% of conflicts uh, come back because if the employment generation does not happen, and they've traced these conflicts. So when conflicts reoccur with the same cause or the same kind of people who are involved, it happens because they don't have the opportunity. And if you look at the Arab Spring, which happened in the Middle East, for instance, it was not so much of misgovernance, but also because there was less of an employment opportunity. There's no economic opportunity for the people. So, therefore, skills become important, and ideas regarding employment also become important. Also, the next point I wanted to make was about how we should promote awareness and how we should think about countering extremism. So, misinformation and ignorance has had a number of casualties. Closer home, we have the Rohingya situation, for instance. We can think about how that snowballed into a very difficult movement because of radicalization. And also, when the Delhi riots took place closer to our own country in 2020, there was a lot of misinformation which happened. And because of that, it's went on and on as far as that confrontation and the situation is concerned with authorities in Delhi, whereas it could have been easily resolved earlier. When the Germans talk about education in terms of what happened in the Holocaust, that reduces the anxiety of people and makes them understand what actually happened in history. So there's this proactive side to information as well. Next point I wanted to make was about the sustainable development goals. Now, here the Sustainable Development Goal 16 talks about promotion of peace and inclusive societies. How is that possible unless you have a fulfillment of this SDG 4, which is on education, SDG 5, which is on gender rights, and also SDG 13, which is on climate action. Now, all these go hand in hand. And that's why the UN comes in here. And I think Sitaramji has got a lot of experience in terms of what the UN is supposed to do and how it can help us achieve this goal of making what we are starting today turn into a success. So, if you look at even the peacekeeping operations that India has taken part in, 200,000 of our people have been involved in UN peacekeeping. It's all contributed to conflict resolution, control of conflict, and making sure that peace is maintained. And of course, we have UN organizations, even though there's a lot of criticism of the UN nowadays, that it's become very ineffective. But you still have programs of UNESCO, of UNICEF, and UNDP, which are actually promoting very actively conflict prevention. And I think the Institute would do well if it has linkages with these programs going forward. In terms of the implementation, I have just five points that I wanted to touch upon. One is in terms of curriculum design, and of course, the whole of India as a whole would and should have some amount of peace and conflict studies, whether it's management, whether it's any other course, because it should be a part, of making the population future ready for an understanding. Secondly, is the research part of it, because if case studies are put together and people are made aware of what has happened in the past, it helps them then learn from that experience and then go on and implement those in different situations. Third is the training part of it, because when you have instructors who are actually taking classes or teaching these courses, and you will have them online to begin with, in our case, you will definitely need the instructors to have the right kind of knowledge about what's happened in the past. So let's start from there because that will become our basis for spreading future knowledge to the others. Fourth is the partnership. And I think here it's very important that the Center for Security Policy, for example, in Geneva, if you take an international organization, or even the ICSSR in India, these are the kind of organizations that can help if we forge that relationship with them. And finally, the field work. When people do this course online, even if it is a certificate course, when it's a practical experience of people going out into field work and trying to look at how to diffuse a situation, even if it's a local community, it gives them that experience and the confidence that they will be able to implement what they have learned online in the course or in the classroom. My last point, and I will stop there, is to make sure that India, through your initiative, Sitaramji, can actually replicate this, in various parts of India, not just in Kolkata, but we are starting from, I think, an achievable aim. Despite what we've heard about the financial aspects, which is the most important here, and I think your topic suggests that, because you are at the back of your mind worried whether this will be taken forward after a year or so. But I'm sure if you have the support of so many of people who are influential here in society, you will succeed going forward. And I'm sure that the UN institutions will help you to take this forward as well, because this is indeed a pioneering initiative here, as far as Kolkata is concerned, as far as India is concerned. I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Sir, I'll just me. Ambassador, first of all, thank you very much for your encouraging words and also the words of guidance. I'm very happy that you have said that it is an achievable aim. That is what I wanted to hear from the people, that we can achieve it. Two things like, as far as the curriculum is concerned, sir, we have worked very hard on that. We have here our Dean of Studies, Aditi Rai Ghatak. She is present here, and she has worked very hard and prepared a wonderful curriculum for this. And secondly, I think the one brilliant idea which you have given is about the field work. That part we have not so far gone into it. As far as our association is concerned, right now I'm missing my founder chairman, Professor Surendranath Das, former Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University, Yadav University, presenting the Vice Chancellor of Edinburgh University. He is in London, and right now he's on the job. He's having a meeting at Oxford, and we are going to have some association with them. Then I think he will have a meeting with the chairman of the United Nations Association of the UK, part of our working, and we are planning to work with them also. So I think we are planning to have a number of associations, both at a national level and also at the global level. And that will also help us to guide us about that. So I'm sure, thank you very much for your guidance, and we will do our best. And with your supports and blessings, we are sure that we'll make a success of it. And I think there are people here around the table who have the vast experience of running these kind of institutions. We find here from the Karnataka University, I think in Gujarat, I think, and he specializes in developing, establishing, and promoting such institutions. So he is with us and he's supporting us a lot. So with these words, Vinita is here. Yeah, Vinita, you wanted to meet Mrs. J.P. Chaudhary's daughter. And yesterday he was mentioning about Umesh. I said, yeah, Umesh and JP, they are with us now. So I think we had a wonderful discussion. I don't know whether...
Yeah, we can take
President,
some.
Yeah,
Take some questions. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador is available for some questions. Yeah, please be short and crisp, not more than 2 sentences, no statements, only questions. Thank you. Any questions?
I don't think.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We have Vice Admiral Bimlendu Guha. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Uh, I have no statement but question. When do you see changes in the composition of Security Council and veto negation?
You'll see it.
So that's a question that has been asked for quite a few years now. If you ask me personally, I think it's a very difficult proposition. That's my honest answer to you. Because there has been a campaign on for a very long time, in fact, since the 80s, to change the UN Security Council composition. But those who are already in it with the veto power, even though some of them have clearly said that they support a change or a reform, that does not mean they need, does not mean that they mean it. It's a lip service. Having, quite frankly, having attended all these meetings myself, and I think lately what has happened is because of the differential in equation as far as the economic strength of countries is concerned, at least a couple of them feel very threatened that if they go in for a reform process, that they'll be thrown out of that permanent veto that they have. Because the situation in the world has changed from 1945. And if today the Security Council were to be recomposed, and if you had permanent membership once again, which I doubt will happen in the future, because there's been a lot of resentment to that, you will not have those people there. So that's one point. Secondly, the whole question about veto. I think the whole question about veto is become like a shield for countries who have it right now. So they don't want to give it up. Obviously, they will not. Let's put ourselves in their situation and think about it. They would not like to do that either. So the only way this can be done is if there is a big force like a General Assembly resolution, which is an overwhelming resolution which happens, in which only those who oppose it vote against it, and they will be exposed at that point. Because of the world situation that we have right now and the dependencies that the world has, that unity is difficult to achieve in those numbers. There was a time, by the way, which was around the early 1900s, before the 2008 2009 crisis, that we had that situation where the General Assembly was in the mood to actually pass these resolutions three times over if required. Because there was actually a feeling, a genuine feeling that the system right now will not work in future, and that's exactly what has happened. That's exactly what we see today. The UN Security Council is paralyzed. So while you have all these conflicts raging around the world, there is no UN Security Council decision or resolution which can solve them, because one of the permanent five is involved. So all you need is one veto.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador. Yes. Yes.
Since you have raised the issue, which is very close to my heart, so I'd like to say, and what I did speak in front of sitting before a veto power, Russia. You see, once UK Prime Minister said, "Why disturb a meeting?" And that reflects the thinking of all the five permanent members. You know, it will need a revision of the charter, and you can't do a revision of the charter unless all the five permanent members they vote for this, which is unlikely to happen. I don't think it will come like carry on like this. Nothing is going to happen. Thank you.
Time for one more last question, please.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Vinita ji.
Yeah.
Please.
Firstly, I'd like to congratulate Sitaram uncle on the wonderful initiative and these were fabulous talks which I heard. But I just have one question, sir. That we are talking about the wars that have been fought in the past, or the power dynamics and the failure of multilateral institutions, given that they are structured on the 1945 models, and here we are we are not in the 21st century, but actually we are in a more futuristic era. So what are we doing to equip ourselves, or to set guardrails against this huge influx of AI, where human beings are facing an existential crisis, or where AI is no longer a tool, but it is actually a partner. So we need to coexist as human beings. So what are we doing to bypass, or maybe have supporting institutions like the UN to equip us for for the future, which we actually don't know which way it's going to go, and we can actually use AI to do that.
Fortunately, that's one area. Can you hear me? Yeah. Fortunately, that's one area where the international community really feels the need to do something. And so we had, if you recall, we had the Paris meeting in which the Prime Minister was there as a speaker. And the vision of most countries today, and if you look at the what we call the global South, is to have a system of not governance but a regulatory framework which ensures that the results of AI are there for common benefit, and also that the harmful effects of AI are at least spelled out and agreed upon by countries across the table. So the UN is, and I'm sure it will have to work on this in future in a much more concentrated manner. So the only conflict we have right now is between commercial interests of those who are working on AI solutions and the others who are have-nots in this case. Most of the global south are have-nots. They have no means to work on the tools of AI. So the research on AI and the development is concentrated in a few countries. United States is one of them. So it has a contrary view right now, and I think I should spell that out because there the commercial interests are put as the primary ones, while the rest of the world, including Europe today, feel that it should be distributed and there should be equitable distribution of not only the benefits but also the resources. So transfers of technology and things like that should be built into whatever arrangements are made. So there we are at the moment. But the common thread is that everybody knows that something needs to be done about it.
In the interest of time, close the floor for questions now, and to the vote of thanks, we request Shri Pachesia to present to Ambassador Wadhwa as our token of appreciation for being here with us today. Thank you so much, sir. I would also request Shri Pachesia to present a memento to our former president, Shri Sitaram Sharma, founder president, TIPS.
TIPS founder president.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Dr. Rahul, Secretary General, to propose a vote of thanks and conclude today's session.
Ambassador Wadhwa, Excellency, distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, my friends from the media and large numbers who are here today, a very good afternoon. At the end of today's session on education is business with a difference, marking the launch of the Tagore Institute of Peace Studies in cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce. It is my privilege to propose a very hearty vote of thanks to all the distinguished speakers who are here today. I would extend my heartfelt gratitude to the ambassador Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and Chairman Board of Advisors, the Tagore Institute of Studies, for his inspiring address that is the mission of the Institute in a broader context. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Shri Anil Saurabji, who is retired former Secretary of Coal and School Education, for his insights into the education system and the need for reform. Where education is often equated with outcomes, rankings, and returns, there lies a deeper purpose that transcends conventional benchmarks. True education must cultivate the capacity to create value for oneself and for others and for society at large, as all the speakers have discussed here today. The launch of the Institute offers a refreshing vision that places human dignity, ethical growth, and social harmony at the ready. As we reflect on the theme, education is business, but with a difference. We are reminded that the real success of education lies not in profit, but in the ability to nurture individuals, to bring peace and constructive change to a rapidly evolving world. We look forward to the meaningful journey that lies ahead with the Tagore Institute of Studies. I would also like to thank Dr. N.G. Khaitan, Solicitor and Advisor of the Tagore Institute of Studies and past President, for his special address and support to this endeavor. Last but not the least, I'm profoundly thankful to Sri Sitaram Sharma. I think that's what I've been here right now. And I've seen him work very closely for the last 6 months on this project and very hard. In fact, I've been also making him work a little too hard. In fact, I've been telling him in office that he's overdoing his bit. But finally, we are here and we are launching this initiative and really appreciative of his hard work and inspiring us all here today. I'd also like to thank the President, Mr. Patricia, for the President of the Chamber of Bharat Chamber of Commerce, and everyone here for their support in making this institute and launch of this institute. So I would also request you to join me in carrying a heavy vote of thanks to our esteemed guest speakers who are here today with a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would request all of you to have lunch before leaving. Thank you so much for your presence today.
So,